So with the release of 1 for 1 last month in the special pack, a ton of different decks got a boost from this card. Some decks can just go into full-fledged gigantic combos off of just 1 for 1 or some other card, but this is another deck that can take advantage of it by getting some added consistency and getting extra access to an XYZ monster. It's actually pretty powerful and underrated for this deck in Sylvan Princess Sprite. So 1 for 1 of course is just going to let you send the monster from your hand to the graveyard and special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck to the board. You're mostly going to be summoning the White Stone of the Ancients, and if you're able to summon another White Stone with it, you can go to an XYZ play with the Sylvan Princess Sprite, allowing you to detach an XYZ material and excavate a card from your deck. If it's a spell or trap, you get to add it to your hand, or a monster you send to the graveyard. So it's really easy to draw into your back row cards with this, and there's plenty of times where turn 1 you're going to make the Princess Sprite, and then use it to get into a Karma Cut or an Ice Dragon's Prison. Then in the end phase you get to summon a Blue Eyes monster to the board. You can also of course use it to get your White Stones to the board in order to go for a Synchro Summon. If you're able to get Blue Eyes Alternate Dragon to the board, you can use 1 for 1, get out your level 1s, and then go for your Spirit Dragon or whatever kind of play you need out of it. So it does give you that extra added utility to the deck. Of course, there are sometimes where you can just end up discarding it for things like Melody of the Awakening Dragon too, or Karma Cut. So even if you are in a position where you can't use the 1 for 1, you can still use it just as discard fodder for some of your other cards. I'll go ahead and dig through the deck list and go through any little additional choice that we have to talk about, and then we'll see the combos and the actual replays. So Ultimate Dragons is our skill, of course the ability to just get Polymerization to our hand for free and go into those fusion monsters, which are also added to our extra deck for free, is extremely powerful and you can't pass it up. We have the 1 of Blue Eyes Alternate White Dragon, 3 White Stone of the Ancient, 1 Dragon Spirit of the White, and then the 3 Sage with the Eyes of Blue, and of course 3 Blue Eyes White Dragon. This is like the core 11 Blue Eyes monsters. I wouldn't really touch these 11 monsters in any kind of pure Blue Eyes deck unless you're going with something like bigger with like Leviathan Dragon and Dark monsters and things like that to fit that requirement, but otherwise these are the core 11 Blue Eyes monsters, and if you're running a Blue Eyes deck, these are probably the 11 you should be stick with in your deck. Not too many other ones that are worth running at this point. We have the 1 copy of 1 for 1, 3 cards of Consonance. We have the 1 Melody of the Awakening Dragon. With access to multiple copies of this, we really don't need that level 1 White Stone monster that adds Blue Eyes from your deck to hand now. I'm only running 1 copy of it here in this deck, though. I find that with 20 cards in my deck, I just didn't need multiple copies to get to the Blue Eyes Alternate Dragon or the other Blue Eyes in my hand. If I were running a bigger deck with like Chaos Dragon Levianeer or just a 30 card Blue Eyes deck for some reason, or with some kind of hybrid deck, I would definitely consider running multiples of this card. But since we're only running 1 copy of it, we have access to 2 Ice Dragon's Prison. Really powerful during the last format. Of course, a new ban list just came out this morning, so we'll see how good this card is going forward, but this card was really powerful and definitely tore it up against a few different decks, winning some games really just by itself at times. It's such a powerful trap card. We also have 2 Karma Cut in this deck, another powerful trap card this deck is able to take advantage of with all of our cards that get effects off of being discarded. We also have in our extra deck the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, 1 Vermilion Dragon Mech, 1 Azure Eyes, 1 Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon, 1 Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon, and then the Galaxy Eyes Cypher Blade Dragon, so the 3 Galaxy package that allows us to pop cards and go for easy wins. The 1 Sylvan Princess Sprite, again, this card is just really powerful for being able to dig for your back row cards, dig for your other spells and traps, getting to your cards of consonants and things like that, and again, we are able to use it quite a bit now because of the 1 for 1. It has that extra use and the ability to get to it that we didn't have before. We also have 1 Nightmare Phoenix in here. This isn't just for getting out of the Ibloo lock either. We actually do occasionally use this just to deal with our opponent's back row sometimes in order to clear the way for our 3K beaters to go ahead and swing in for game. By the way, let's go ahead and dig into the replays. Alright, now this deck actually got us all the way from Duelist level like 10 all the way to Duelist level 19. Would have gotten the DLV max with it, but I wanted to do it with a different deck. Although we very easily could have done it with this deck. I went on plenty of 5-game win streaks over the course of it, including as we got up to DLV 19, so this deck was definitely cooking. But leading off, we have the cards of Consonance, the double cards of Consonance. Always great when you start off with that, and you're going to need it in this matchup against Synchrons, at least the Synchrons before the ban list. Again, remember, this was during the Casey Cup, so this was full power with 3 of everything. Of course, this deck doesn't have access to the mind controls and all that stuff anymore now. With the most recent ban list coming out, it's going to be really interesting to see what is meta after that. But we're able to turn 1 get out 2 level 1s, and so we're going to go for the Princess Sprite. Again, this card is just so powerful, being able to dig for your additional back row. We're going to do that here, try to get it. Not able to successfully get another spell or trap card, but we do dump a Blue Eyes in the grave, which isn't like the worst thing because we're going to be able to add it back to hand with the White Stone of Ancients anyways, so it's sometimes it's okay. Even if you don't hit your spells or traps, it isn't like killer, right? You're not gonna like immediately lose just because you mill off a monster most of the time anyways. So Our opponent has Rhoda, able to start out their plays. They probably have Junk Synchron and everything that they need to go in the Synchro plays. And we only really have the one interruption right now in Ice Dragon's Prison, but it's a really powerful interruption, right? Not only can we take out, like their Synchro play and stop them from going into it, but we can also potentially get rid of a like a level 2 monster out of the graveyard, taking away targets for Junk Synchron for the future. So, and we could potentially chain it to a Junk Synchron to remove multiple things and multiple threats. So there's a lot of things that we can do with this card. Very powerful in this matchup. So we're going to go ahead and do it here. He summons a Junk Synchron targeting his monster. We're just going to use Ice Dragon's Prison to summon his monster and banish both of them to the field, from the field. But he has 2 more back row. Either way, though, we do have the Princess Sprite to go ahead and try to get her effect off. We do successfully get it off, but we got to be careful because we only have 5 cards left in the deck, so need to be wary about running out of things. But here's where she comes in handy, too. We're going to go ahead and just go for the Nightmare Phoenix to try to get rid of some of these back row cards. So he's got the Canadia. That's not going to do anything because both of our blue eyes can just be flipped back forward. So we'll deal with one of the back row. Go ahead and go to this Galaxy Eyes monster to try to deal with the rest of it. He does have the Floodgate to shut us down, unfortunately. So we'll just go ahead and use our little baby dragon to add a blue eyes back to hand. And then go ahead and swing in for 1900 with an Ice Dragon's Prison set again to try to, again, stop this play here that he has. So once again, he summons a Junk Synchron, but again, he doesn't have a level 2 monster in grave because we got rid of it with the last Ice Dragon's Prison. So all we can do is just bring back the level 1 and use it to try to wall up against my Nightmare Phoenix. But we still have additional white stones in the grave, so bring back the Dragon Spirit of the White. We'll tribute off both of our monsters to summon this, banish a spell card, swing over the Junk Synchron, and hopefully that would be enough to finish off the game. We'll activate the 3rd and final White Stone of the Ancients, get back Blue Eyes to hand. Now we can go for our fusion play off of our skill, activate Ultimate Dragons, get Polymerization, activate it, get out our twin-headed Blue Eyes White Dragon to the field. It's going to allow us to clean up his monster, swing in for 3000 direct, but he has Kite-Roid in hand, going to prevent us from winning the game. So that's going to block the first attack there. Coming back to his turn, he has Doppel Warrior and Jet Synchron, so stopping him from going into any kind of level 3 Synchro. I'm going to go ahead and chain the Ice Dragon's Prison, try to banish not only his Tuner monster, but also get rid of his Kite-Roid from the field. I did forget that he had the Road Warrior engraved, Rush Warrior engraved though, so he's able to get that effect to get a Junk Synchron, but it's okay because we have the Karma Cut to remove his to remove his Junk Synchron when he summons it to the board, and that's it. Nothing left on this side of the field. We win this one. Alright, so Yami Yugi deck could be a number of different things, but it turns out to be Magical Musketeer. So, start off, we'll summon the Sage with the Eyes of Blue, get a level 1 to our hand. We can then discard it with the Melody. He's going to go ahead and chain immediately the Dancing Needle to banish my monster from the graveyard, but it's also going to trigger the effect of his Magical Musketeer so we can summon another one from the deck to the field. So, not only does he prevent our summon in the end phase, but he also gets to summon off now, so he could have waited until I potentially dump more level 1s in the graveyard. But by doing it now, again, he's able to get the summon from the deck so we can get a second Magical Musketeer on the field already. So we'll go ahead and just summon the Blue Eyes Alternate Dragon, try to bait out more Magical Musketeer cards from him. He does have the Desperado to take out my monster. It's also going to let him search his deck for another Desperado because he searches his deck for another Magical Musketeer card because he activated it in the same card of his other monster. But that's fine. We have 1 for 1, so we can continue pushing. We're able to summon now another level 1 monster to the board. Go for our Princess Sprite. We can then use its effect here to try to get a card off the top of our deck, but he has a monster, or the monster negation effect that Musketeers have, but that's okay because at this point now, he's used up pretty much everything except for a set card, and we're still going to get the summon in the end phase off of the White Stone of the Ancient, so we'll go ahead and summon out the Dragon Spirit of the White, banish his final back row card. It's a Forbidden Land, so he's down to nothing left except for whatever he top decks here. It is a cross domination, which is going to let him negate a monster effect and turn its attack and defense to 0, which is pretty powerful because he's going to also be able to get the search off for the Magical Musketeer monster, so able to clean off my monster pretty easily, as well as set himself up with at least some kind of defensive card. But now though, we have we have a Karma Cut set. We also have Ice Dragon's Prison, which is kind of useless in this matchup. It's kind of the double-edged swords of IDP, right? Occasionally you'll have matchups like this where this card just doesn't do anything. But we do have Karma Cut now. We have a card in hand now to discard for it. So when he goes to activate his Magical Musketeer card, we can chain Karma Cut into whatever monster he activates a column into, or the card in a column into, and banish that monster so he doesn't get the effect off. So we're going to go ahead and use the White Stone of the Ancients effect, get a Blue Eyes monster from our grave to hand, activate Princess Bride effect to try to get a card, and we do. Summon the Sage with the Eyes of Blue to continue getting discard fodder through our hand in the form of White Stone of the Ancients. Go ahead and swing in, and here we go. He activates the Desperado to pop our monster. We'll chain the Karma Cut to banish this monster so he doesn't get the search with it. The attack won't go through, he will still pop our monster, but we took out his monster and stopped him from getting the search. So at this point, once again, he's out of resources now. We've been able to run him dry of resources just by constantly just piling it on and forcing him to keep continuously using effects. So he top decks another Desperado. I think that's his third one now, right? 3 Desperados. But again, we have another Karma Cut set now that we got off the Princess Sprite that we were able to summon because of the 1-for-1. And now that we have this Karma Cut, he activates it. We're able to chain, banish his monster, and once again, he's not going to get a summon off the Magical Musketeer effect because we can chain to the trap card effect that he activates. So once again, he's left with no resources left because of our play. And all we need to do now is just draw into our own Blue Eyes monsters, our way to get them to the field so we can finish them off. So we'll go ahead and just use White Stone of the Ancients, get our Blue Eyes back to hand, put our monster in defense mode because it has no attack points anyways, and just set and pass. Now again, our IDP at this point is still useless. He still doesn't have a monster engrave after all this time. So we don't have any protection right now. So he is able to get Musketeer docked to the board, summon it, but he can't swing over a monster, so we're walled up pretty nice right here. We do finally top deck Sage of the Eyes of Blue, which is going to allow us to send our monster on the field of the graveyard and summon a Blue Eyes out from our deck. So we'll go ahead and summon that to the board, swing over his monster, put it in the graveyard, which means that Ice Dragon's Prison is now live. So pass over to his turn. All he has is a back row to set. We'll swing. It's a compulse, so we'll just bounce our monster back to hand. That's fine. He's only at 24, so it's just going to take 1 hit to finish him off. He summons a Magical Musketeer monster. We'll go ahead and hit him with the IDP, and that's game because we still haven't used our effect, so we can next turn activate our skill, add a Polymerization to our hand, summon our Fusion monster, and swing in for the game. Easy win there. Alright, so this one was against Super Heavy Samurai. Now this is a matchup where Ice Dragon's Prison comes in extremely handy if you're able to get to it. Leads off with the Wagon, which is this deck's search card. Gonna let him get whatever kind of equip card he needs to go into his combo, summon whenever he wants to the board. Uses a couple of them here. Able to bring out that annoying one that stops you from targeting monsters on your opponent's side of the board. So there definitely are problematic cards we want to deal with. So fortunately, Ice Dragon's Prison helps deal with them. Also, our Blue Eyes of the Spirit monster, that Synchro monster we have, will allow us to negate monster effects that activate in the graveyard. So we are able to deal with some of these annoying graveyard effects that Super Heavy Samurai have, like the Flutist that negates target effects, like the one that negates you from attacking or turns your monster attack points to 0. It's super annoying. We're able to top deck a White Stone of the Ancients here, so we'll go ahead and activate our cards of constants, get our draw 2. We still have another Sage with the Eyes of Blue here. He still has the big Benkai here, and again, he has the monster that's going to stop us from being able to target it. So we need multiple cards to be able to target to negate this, or we need to have something like an Ice Dragon's Prison to be able to yank the monster out of his graveyard first. So that's what I think we're going to go ahead and go for here, is just try to yank the monster out of his graveyard with the IDP and hope that that's enough to finish it off there. So summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon to the board. I guess I also could have gone for Spirit of the summon, use 1-for-1 to go for another Synchro Summon into that level 8 Synchro Summon that stops monsters in the graveyard effect from activating, but we have plenty of back row here to help stop this anyway. So he goes to the battle phase. We'll go ahead and do the IDP play that I was talking about to banish his monster from the field, because again, this does not target the monster on the board. It only targets the monster in the graveyard, and Flutist can't stop that from happening. So at this point, there's nothing left he's able to do with his turn, so he'll just go ahead and pass, and now we're able to just kind of go ham. We'll go ahead and summon Sage with the Eyes of Blue, add the White Stone to our hand, summon Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the effect to just add the Blue Eyes back to our hand so that we can go ahead and summon Blue Eyes Alternate Dragon to the board. Now we can go ahead and use the 1-for-1 effect, discard our level 1, summon another one from the deck, go ahead and pop his monster, synchro off for Vermilion Dragon Mech. Now we'll go ahead and swing in. He does have the Kite Roid to stop it, but that's okay because we can go ahead and negate its second effect, so we will get the second hit in here with the Vermilion Dragon Mech. And now during the end phase, we can summon multiple Blue Eyes White Dragons to the board because we sent multiple copies of the White Stone to the graveyard. And there's just not much more that Super Heavy Samurai is going to be able to do at this point with this field. At least you would not think so, right? He does summon another Super Heavy Samurai. Could have gone for an XYZ play there, but we have the Karma Cut to take care of it, and that's all we're going to hear from Super Heavy Samurai. Alright, now this was against another newer Synchro deck in Resonator. Well, I guess the deck itself isn't new, but they got new support recently. Resonators are actually been doing pretty well recently, and maybe with the hits to the other decks that came up on the ban list that was released this morning, who knows, maybe Resonators will find themselves in the top of the metagame. Either way, he's able to use a skill here to get his combo out into the field, summoning the Crimson Resonator and the Wild One to go for his Synchro play, gets the Rising Dragon out. That's going to bring back his level 2 Synchro monster. Used its effect to bring out 2 more from the deck. He gains, Synchro summons again the Red Dragon Archfiend. Able to Synchro Summon yet again into a Hot Red Dragonbane Archfiend, activate its effect to bring back your Red Dragon Archfiend to the field, and that's a pretty solid board that you're able to end on with 2 3,000 plus beaters on the field. Oh yeah, and then of course summon the Red Resonator and use its effect to give you another 3,500 life points, right? Oh yeah, and since he has another one in hand and he's actually running it, he's going to be able to summon the Red Nova Dragon here. So we're ending on a board with a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend and Red Nova Dragon. He has no back row, so that is the one good thing here. He doesn't have any spells or traps to worry about, but he does have a 5,500 attack point monster that can't be destroyed by card effects, and he can stop you from being able to swing over it, which it's at 5,500 attack points anyway, so not much you'll be able to do to swing over that anyway, to swing over that with everything. So we'll go ahead and just use our cards of consonants, discard our White Stone, get to draw 2, and just end our board with just the Blue Eyes on the field and 2 set back row. We're going to be really reliant again on these back row cards to be able to deal with our opponent's monster threat. Sometimes it feels bad that we're so reliant on these trap cards sometimes, but we need other ways to take care of big threats that we can't deal with just our 3k beat sticks. So going to his turn, he's going to activate his Demon Resonance skill. Consistency of this is able to give you is just absolutely insane. Wildwind's such a powerful card too. So he's going to go ahead and summon, go into a Red Rising Dragon, continuing to go into combos and summon big old dragons to the board. He's also able to gain 5,500 life points off that, so he's at 13,000 life points at this point. It is going to take numerous turns to get that down to 0. Summon the Hot Red Dragon Archfiends. He's then able to go into Resonator Call, search his deck for Synchron Resonator. Just so many plays this deck is able to pull off here. Just summon it to the board, use the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend to summon yet another Archfiend monster to the field, and this is where we're going to go ahead and use the Ice Dragon's Prison, right? So now we can use it to get rid of a couple threats. We can get rid of the monster that he's trying to summon off of this Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane's effect, and banish another Red Dragon Archfiend monster on the board too. So we'll go ahead and get rid of the big boy, the Red Nova Dragon, and get it off the field. So we're able to remove a couple of threats here, which is really nice, but unfortunately, since we had to chain and activate it on the Red Dragon Archfiend, we weren't able to remove the Red Dragon Rising or the Wandering King Wildwind. So he still has graveyard effects that he can activate here, one graveyard effect here, another one here, in order to further his plays going forward. So unfortunately, we weren't able to deal with that just yet. So able to do that, bring back a couple Synchron monsters, go into yet another Synchro Summon. The thing is though, at this point, he's run through so many of them, right? He's only down to 3 cards left in his extra deck here. So he's running through his Synchro monsters, not too many left in his deck at this point. Using his effect to continue, the Synchron Resonator effects to continue the recur resources, adding things back to his hand. Really annoying how that's able to do that. We are able to use the Karma Cut to take care of one of his monsters, but not able to take care of the other one, so he's able to swing over our Blue Eyes monster and summon 2 more Resonators to the field, again, just giving him tons of more resources to the field. But here in the end phase, we're going to get to summon at least 1 Blue Eyes to the board, so we're going to need something here if we're going to be able to clean this field out as it is. Fortunately, we draw into the Blue Eyes alternate White Dragon, a huge top deck there, able to special summon it to the board, and we're able to bring back a Blue Eyes from our graveyard to our hand with our White Stone of Ancients effect. But remember, he's got 13,000 life points at this point, so he just has so many. We're not going to be able to take him out in 1 turn at this point. So we'll go ahead and use our Blue Eyes Alternate Dragon, take out his monster. There's also an argument that I should have gone for the 4,000 attack point Blue Eyes monster here, use up all 3 of them, but we can't use its effect to attack multiple times because we had another Blue Eyes monster on the board. And also, this can't be destroyed by battle either, so I guess it still stands up to the monsters that he summons that are bigger, so I guess this was totally fine to go for the Twin Burst Dragon there. So swing in, but again, still got 10,000 life points for us to deal with. He's going to summon a Resonator and give himself another 3,000 life points, so the hit we just dealt last turn, he just got it all back. Totally went to, just unbelievable the amount of life points that this deck can gain sometimes with its skill. So go ahead and pop another monster. Go ahead and use another White Stone to gain back a card from our hand. We still have 1-for-1 in our hand. We haven't used it. We still haven't used it yet, and we still have targets in our deck. It's another nice thing. We have plenty of targets in our deck with Sages with the Eyes of Blue also qualifying for it. So we'll go ahead and finally bring out our level 9 Synchro. Go for the Blue Eye Spirit Dragon. Swing in for a bunch of damage here, but even so, he's still at over 5,000 life points left. Still well over even what he started the game with. He's going to summon more Resonator monsters to the board, but at this point, he doesn't have any more non-tuners to be able to get to his hand right now. He's already used up a skill. He doesn't have any more of those. 2 of his Wild Winds are already banished, so he doesn't have any non-tuners to get to the field. All he can do is just set up walls at this point. He does have Floodgate to deal with our Blue Eyes monster, which is really annoying that he flips this down and we don't get the effect to protect everything on the field, but we're able to just swing through his monsters. try to swing in for 3k here. Again, Synchron Resonator just giving you so many resources. This deck is just so good at just recurring resources, but again, at this point, he doesn't have any non-tuners, though. All the resources he keeps getting back at this point are all tuners, so, you know, it's great that he have all these tuners. Again, Resonator Call, get you another tuner to your hand. He's got 4 tuners, 2 on the board, 3 on the board, 1 in hand, and he can't make any synchro summons, and so under those circumstances, or under those conditions, we just keep on swinging through everything. Again, another tuner back to his hand. This time we're going to try to put a stop to that, though. We're going to Karma Cut his last monster, swing on through. His back row isn't anything, so finally, after forever seemingly, we get the win against the Resonator deck. Alright, yet another hero deck. I've been seeing these quite a bit lately. A lot of hero decks with the new skill getting the boost. I know it's also just a fan favorite archetype, so but a really good skill to go with this deck now that allows you to add the Super Poly to hand. So he does so here with the skill, add Super Poly, so even if he didn't, we knew he was going to have it set anyways. We got a handful of spells or traps. These are all great hands. Obviously, you brick with this deck quite a bit, and I didn't show the brick games, because we did have quite a few games where we did brick with this deck, but you go on streaks with this deck at times, right? So we had some good wins with this deck that were able to help us level up pretty easily with it. But so we're able to start off with the Sage of the Eyes of Blue. It's going to let us get our little White Stone of Legend, or White Stone of Agents to our hand, giving us access to the cards of Constance. Super happy he didn't have a response to that, so we're able to not only get the draw 2 and discard off and get the summon in the end phase, but we're also able to dig into more powerful cards. We have Melody of the Awakening Dragon, and now we can get other blue eyes to our hands as well as the alternate white dragon here. He does have a Book of Moon to flip that face down, but that's totally fine. He's got 3 back row we got to deal with, so we need to bait out this Super Poly. That's kind of the big thing at this point. We get Super Poly off the board, so during the end phase, we'll go ahead and summon the Dragon Spirit of the Light. 50-50 chance to hit the Super Poly. We don't hit it. It's a Miracle Fusion, which is still good, though. It's still a powerful card that we're able to deal with, so he summons another alien or another Neos here. He goes ahead and swings and crashes into my second monster. I really debated whether or not I should either Karma Cut or IDP his monster. I decided to just go ahead and let him crash, because at this point he doesn't have anything left except for Super Poly left set. So so if we just flip this face up, it probably baits out the Super Poly. He goes into the light monster, right? And he doesn't have anything banished for it, so we just need to deal with that light monster afterwards, and we have a clean board then to swing over and end them. So that's exactly what he does here. We flip over his monster, target it to destroy his monster. He activates Super Poly to bring out the Elemental Hero of the Shining, the light monster, and he has nothing left. Nothing in hand, no other cards on the field, nothing left in grave that has any kind of effects. All he has is a 2600 monster that doesn't even have its effect because he has nothing banished. So at this point, we have everything we need to just finish off the game. We can bring back the alternate white dragon to the board. We can even summon it this turn, because we didn't summon it yet this turn. We just activated this field effect. So go and summon the white dragon to the board, activate our ultimate dragon skill, get the polymerization to our hand, polymerization, summon the twin burst dragon to the board, and now our opponent is just cooked at this point, right? We can go ahead and pop his monster with our ultimate dragon, synchro summon for the blue eye spirit dragon. We had the back row to deal with his monster. Easy win versus heroes. Alright, life point boost A. Gotta think it's Infernoids, right? Interesting to see if this deck's able to do anything going forward post-ban list. I think some of the Burning Abyss version of the deck still might be able to play alright, but the main copies of this deck are definitely done. So our opponent has Monster Gate, does okay off of it. It's not the best Monster Gate, but he does have a Deviati on the board, as well as a Decatron that can stop stuff in our graveyard. So he does have ways to stop our Blue Eyes Grave effects, but I mean, it's just not a ton of threats on the board. And if we can summon a 3k beaters, we can just swing over everything and deal with this pretty easily. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. Summon Sage with the Eyes of Blue, get our White Stone of Ancients to our hand, activate the card of Constance. We're going to get our draw 2 here. He's going to go ahead and use the Decatron immediately to stop us from getting the summon effect in the end phase, but I just don't think that's going to matter too much. We're going to try to use Sage with the Eyes of Blue to summon our Blue Eyes monster from the deck, but he has the Deviat effect to negate it, but it doesn't matter. We have our Melody of the Awakening Dragon, just an easy win over Infernoid. Nothing they can do there. Alright, our next matchup is going to be against Rose Dragon. This is another deck that got a bit of a boost recently with some ban list help, or getting some stuff off the ban list, I should say. So definitely a deck that's gotten a little bit of support, but still isn't able quite to keep up with some of the meta decks. But it does pose a challenge for our Blue Eyes deck. But we have cards of Constance here, able to get us our draw 2. Again, so powerful when you're able to start off with that. And you do get to it quite a bit too when you have, 3 of them in your deck and plenty of ways to get to your level 1 monsters. So here's another game where 1-for-1 is going to come in for us, getting us our Sylvan Princess Sprite, trying to dig for more back row cards, or at least a discard fodder for Karma Cut if we need it for that. Go ahead and swing over his monster. He does have the Basil Rose Shoot in the end phase to get the Rocks Rose back to the board. Gonna get him a search for another one from the deck as well, so he's got plays here, but we have plays too. We also have our White Stone of the Ancient in the end phase, summoning another Blue Eyes to our board, and the second White Stone of the Ancients, don't forget, we sent 2 to the grave, 1 off the Cards of Consonance, 1 off of the 1-for-1 and detach from the XYZ monster. So 2 Blue Eyes, 2 back row, a Princess Sprite, and 2 cards in hand. That's a pretty solid board to deal with our opponent. So he summons a Rocks Rose Dragon along with the Blue Rose to go with the Red Rocks. We go ahead and banish it with the IDP to get rid of some of his threats. He summons yet another Rocks Rose Dragon, but we have Karma Cut to banish it as well. So now we've dealt with 2 of his Rocks Rose Dragons. He does have another Basil Rose Shoot, but we're dealing with his threats really easily. We still have 2 Blue Eyes on the board, and we have Princess Sprite when we come back to our turn right now to try to get its effect off again. We do get another card to hand, so we'll go ahead and go into Nightmare Phoenix and just use it to try to deal with his back row, see what it is. It is the Basil Rose Shoot. I kind of forgot this has this is a quick effect with its graveyard effect. When it's destroyed, you get to summon something, but it doesn't matter because we have so many ways to dump monsters on the board at this point that we're just going to get the win. So he summons the Rocks Rose Dragon, searches his deck. It doesn't matter though. We're just going to go ahead and use the White Stone Dragon effect to add our Blue Eyes back to our hand. Then going to use our skill, add a Polymerization to our hand along with our 2 Blue Eyes cards. Use the Polymerization on 2 Blue Eyes, summon the Blue Eyes Twin Burst to the field. And now, at this point, we can just clean up both of his monsters with it, swing in with our other 2 monsters, and there's nothing left that he can do. GG's, easy wins. And that's the last replay for this deck. If you guys liked the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. I did mention that I had another deck that I reached Duelist level max with, and that was Madolches, and I also have a video coming with that one very soon as well, so that should be up in the next week also. And then, of course, we'll have our spicy decks of the week next week, or later this week, with hopefully featuring some of the other new decks from the most recent ban list drop that just happened. We'll see what cool spicy decks people are able to come up with a new list that just came out with. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.